Welcome to the Kissing Spine podcast. How nice of you to join. In this podcast, I discuss several topics around kissing spine, like what kissing spine is, the different medical treatments, the function of different body parts, functional and dysfunctional training techniques, saddle fit, and a whole lot more. All put together to help you support your horse with the kissing spine. I wish you a lot of fun listening, and if you like this podcast, make sure to become a subscriber so you won't miss any of my episodes. Hi, and welcome to the first 2023 Kissing Spine podcast. And to begin, I want to wish you a very, very happy new year. I hope you had some very good holidays with friends and family, and maybe you got to spend some time with your horse. But for me, this period is very much about spending time with my friends and family, and that means that I train my horses a little bit less. And now in the new year, it's time for new goals, it's time for new things, and I'm really excited about that. And I hope that now the holiday season has calmed down a little bit, you are ready to kick some kissing spine ass. So to get this a little bit started in the new year, one of the things I would really like to address in this episode is breeding with your kissing spine mare. Because in a new year, people think like, okay, what am I going to do this year? And maybe you haven't had the best of success with the kissing spine rehab training, and you're like, okay, maybe this year it's a good idea to start breeding with my horse. Like, that will give my horse some purpose, and I don't have to train my horse, and then she doesn't really have to work that hard. And giving your horse a purpose by getting your horse being a mother, maybe you feel like I can breed a new horse for myself that I can work with, because with my kissing spine mare, I cannot really do that. And this is a very logical thought, especially if you have a younger horse, for example, that is like full with hormones and is really ready to become a mommy. Or maybe you just feel like, okay, with this horse, it's not really going to work out anymore. I don't really see the possibilities to get more out of my rehab training with this horse. And then, this way my horse can still be with me and serve a purpose in life. This is all very logical. Let me start with that. It's a very logical thing to see if you can give your horse some new impulses. Or maybe you feel like, okay, let's kick it off the training for a year and, not really let my horse be a field ornament, but give her some downtime to physically recover some more. And then after we had the fall, we can pick up the training again and see where we're at. So again, very logical thought, and I don't want to talk you out of it. But I do want to give you some insights to help you decide whether this is actually a good idea or not. And I'm doing this right in the beginning of the year, because this is the month that people feel like, okay, what am I going to do this spring? Like, am I going to do this? And then you might want to get ready, find the right stallion, get the vets out, blah, blah, blah. So before you're going to start that whole circus up, I want to give you some ideas, some thoughts to think about whether this is really something that you should want for your horse, okay? And whether this is a good idea with this mare that you're having that already has kissing spine. So let's talk about how kissing spine is a little bit genetic first, all right? Because with how horses have been bred over the last 1 or 2 decades, but even longer, but especially the last 20 years, the idea of breeding a shorter backed horse to increase flexibility and getting a horse that's more athletic is something that's been a very big trend. But the downside of this is that these shorter backs don't mean shorter vertebrae. It means that actually the vertebrae are a little bit closer together, which makes a horse more sensitive to get kissing spine. Now, this is not the case for all horses. Some horses have got kissing spines because of bad saddle fit, because of training, and this is still a very big percentage. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this horse has the full guarantee that if you're going to breed a new horse with your mare, that you're going to continue breeding kissing spine into horses. It's not a guarantee. So if you're going to look out for a stallion, take a good look at your mare. Take a good look at the back of your horse. Is your horse a longer back mare, or is she, and did she get the kissing spine out of the way that she's been worked? And I know that takes a very painful look in the mirror that maybe you have contributed to your horse getting kissing spine. I don't want you to feel super guilty about it, because if that's the case, because that's not going to help your horse. But I do want you to be aware that if you've trained kissing spine into your horse, or whether someone else trained kissing spine into your horse, then the chances are that your horse is not going to breathe through to your maybe future newborn, that the kissing spine is going to be there. If your horse is already quite short-backed, I would choose for a stallion with a longer back that has no kissing spine. All right? So if you're going to look out for a stallion to breed with your horse, I would be very picky on the type of horse that I would breed with. Okay? So again, take a very good look at your mare and see if you can determine, maybe with a little help. I'm happy to look with you into this if that's what you want. But see if you can determine whether the chances are there that your horse is going to breed through the kissing spine into your foal. If that's the case, you might want to consider not breeding with your mare. And I know this maybe blows away what you want to do, but there's no point in breeding with a horse with which you already know you're going to breed problems into your baby. That's not what you want, right? You don't want a horse that's by default already has chances of being uncomfortable. If you've seen my rehab strategy course, if you've been in my rehab strategy course, you know that with training in a younger age, you can influence how your horse is going to develop when it grows out. But obviously, that's only going to be until a certain degree, right? So that's not, it's not a guarantee, let's say it that way. So that is one thing that I would be very critical upon. Like, is the chance there that I'm going to breed kissing spine into the new horse? And if so, if there's a possibility, I'd be very critical on the stallion that I would pick to breed with. All right. So again, if you have questions that you have on this topic and you want some help with this, you can get like a 15-minute call. You can book it on my website, or you can ask me for the link. I can help you book that call, and I'm happy to sit down with you and chat about what's the case with your mare. So that being said, there's another thing that I would like you to think about before you consider breeding with your mare. All right. So with this, I'm going to tell you a story about Pura. Because when I met Pura, and that was before I bought her, she was already in the yard where I was boarding my other horse when I met Pura for the first time. And she was with foal at that time. And she was the nastiest mare, like a typical mare, if you could, like, if that even exists without a reason, but I would call her a typical mare. She was a horse that if you would walk by her stall door, she would attack you over the door. She would like grab you. If you would approach her in the field, she would turn away from you and lash out. She was very, very nervous. And that actually was a form of anxiety, because what happened after right after she gave birth, she turned around about 180 degrees. She wouldn't attack you over the stall door anymore. She would let you approach, touch the baby. Totally fine with that. That was the least thing that we expected. We expected the same nasty behavior of her protecting her baby. She didn't. She was the sweetest horse ever. So why am I telling you this story? At this point, no one knew that Puda had kissing spine and that she had back issues. That is something that I discovered 3 years later. But she was already anxious. If you would get on, she would be super uncomfortable and try to buck you off. Because I tried riding her about 3 months after she gave birth. I was like, okay, let's start training her a bit. And she was very, well, I wouldn't say flat out dangerous just yet, but she was very anxious. She was jumpy. She was unreliable, to be honest. And it was very clear in hindsight that she was very, very, very uncomfortable and in a lot of pain. So why am I telling you this story? Because I don't know, I never had kids, but I have girlfriends who had kids. And, the bigger you get, the more heavier it is to walk around with a baby in your belly, right? So now imagine with a kissing spine mare that instead of the weight being on top of your horse, the weight is hanging underneath your horse, pulling the spine down. All right? So if you're not training such horse during the pregnancy and keeping the muscles up to really keep that spine up, imagine what's going to happen with the back of that horse. The more weight is going to hang underneath it. You can imagine that spine dropping down, right? And what's going to happen when that spine drops down? Those dorsals are going to move closer together until they start touching. This is what happened with Puda. She was in a lot of pain during her pregnancy because that weight underneath her belly was actually pulling that spine down, making those dorsals push more and more. All right? So if you have a kissing spine mare that you would like to breed with and that is uncomfortable being ridden, you really would want to reconsider whether you want to put a foal in this mare, because she might get really, really, really uncomfortable carrying a baby around. All right. So though it might sound and seem like a good idea to breed with your kissing spine mare, there's not one, but actually 2 reasons why you should reconsider. 1, giving along that kissing spine into your newborn. And secondly, that your mare might actually get really uncomfortable while carrying a foal. All right. So if you decide to go along with breeding with your kissing spine mare, there is actually a couple of things that I recommend that you do. First of all, don't turn her out 24/7 and not train your horse. I would continue the training. All right. I until the last minute if possible. With Didi, my PRE mare, I literally worked her until a week before she gave birth, and I started working her again after about 2 or 3 weeks after she gave birth. I would just walk her. I would start in a walk, and before she gave birth, I was slowing down in the work, but I kept her working until about a week before she gave birth. If you want to have ideas on how to do that, again, I'm happy to jump on a call with you. Or if you want to know more about this, I'm happy to make a video on this, or just let me know in the comments below. Let me know, send me an email, message over Facebook. Totally fine. I'm happy to do something with that. Just simply let me know if this is something that you're interested in. The second thing that I actually recommend is doing my rehab strategy course. You can do it on demand for $125. You can find it on my website, and that really gives you a step-by-step flow of assessing your horse, which I feel is very important. That also brings along how your horse got the kissing spine, and it will help you decide if you should breed with your mare, and also if you should breed with your mare, and of course what types of problems are in the breed of your horse. And I'm going to give you a few pointers for that, but also how to build up the training, to scale up the training, but also how to scale down the training. That's in there as well. So I really recommend you doing that course. If you think about breeding with your mare, do that, because that will help you determine whether you should or you shouldn't do that. And I totally get that if a baby is really what you want, this sounds a little bit discouraging, or maybe it will give you the comfort like, hey, my mare can do this. Either way, if you decide to back out or jump in, be aware that your horse will always need help in this process, and that if you decide to breed with your kissing spine horse, that with your newborn, the kissing spine is really something that you need to keep in mind and be aware of when you start when the horse starts to grow out and develop and, you know, become a bigger horse, an older horse, and that you might want to start working with. It's always something to keep in mind. If that's not something that you want, then you should really reconsider breeding with your mare, because there are other horses out there that don't have kissing spine. You can, well, probably by now you've learned a lot about kissing spines and, you know, what to look out for and what horses are more sensitive to kissing spine and whatnot. So, you know, you can make the decision to maybe buy a foal of a horse or a breed that is less likely to develop kissing spine, and, you know, start working with that. So instead of breeding your own, just buy a foal. So thinking for yourself why it is that you want to breed with your horse and whether that is the honest and fair motivation to your kissing spine mare is something that I would really want you to think about. So this was a topic that I already saw a few like posts open up, and I received a lot of questions about it. So that's why I really wanted to address to you, like, first thing in the year, like, let's get this started with breeding. Should you do it? Should you not do it? I hope this was helpful. Again, I really recommend doing the Rehab Strategy course because it will help you determine whether you should breed with your mare. It will give you some more pointers and things to look out for, but it will also help you train your kissing spine mare if you want to breed or whether you don't want to breed. If you have any questions or more stuff that you want to know about this topic, feel free to reach out. Post it in the comments. You can send me a message on Facebook. You can send me an email. You can find my contacts on my website, www.sdjhorsetraining.nl. I'm really happy, looking forward to chatting with you and helping you further in your kissing spine journey. Thank you so much for being here today, and until the next podcast. I would like to thank you again for listening to this podcast. If you think that this podcast is interesting to someone else, please share it on social media so others can find it too. This way we can create more awareness about what the options are with a kissing spine horse.